thanks very much to Dan and Meredith, who I do know, and Roger, who I didn't before, for inviting me along to do this creative writing workshop. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that this is a workshop, and so you are all going to be doing a lot of writing in the next 50 minutes. So I hope you have your writing book, it doesn't need to be Wonder Woman, and pen with you, hooray. Or if you are going to type, that's fine too, but you will need to see the slides. So I know some of you, so hello friends who I know already. I saw Rocky and Stacey and Kirsten on, and the reason I come along to do this, and it is going to be a little bit of film, but mostly just Greek mythology. The reason I've come along to do this, there's a few different things. We fitted it into the pedagogy slot because it's something that can be done as kind of outreach. And in fact, I delivered this online 3 weeks ago as part of the Being Human Festival in the UK, which is a humanities festival. But also it's just, I think, really useful as academics to think about creative writing as another side of the coin of something that you do. So I know a number of you do creative writing already, but I'm finding now that actually to get into a topic, this helps me too. So there was an online conference a couple of weeks ago to celebrate the 2500th anniversary of Thermopylae, and I wanted to think about the female experience of Thermopylae, and so I wrote a poem about the granddaughter of someone who died there and worked through that, and it can give you a bit more insight into the lived experience. And this, I suppose, is part of a wider project. So last year at the Classical Association conference in London, I persuaded Caroline Lawrence, the children's author, and Emily Hauser, the brilliant writer and friend, and some performance poets, S.J. Brady and Emily Chow Cambridge, to do some workshops for academics there. So we talked about writing, and then we all did a bit of writing. So that's what we're going to be doing, a bit of writing here. And I suppose I got into this in classics via fan fiction. So I started writing about fan fiction probably about 6-7 years ago. My first was when Monica Serino asked me to contribute to her second Rome volume, and I got really interested in the fan fiction around Rome and kind of have gone on from there. And so I probably should say that I'm with the Open University in the UK, for those of you that don't know me, and let's get on with the workshop then. Oh, and these are my two Venuses that are standing in my garden, Winter and Summer Venus. So we're going to go first into a character writing exercise, and the exercises we're going to be doing, I'm going to keep us to time. So sometimes you're going to seem as though you haven't really got enough, but I am going to move you on. So we're going to start, and we're going to start with a very targeted exercise to get you going, and then we'll get freer and freer as we go throughout the time. Okay. And if you're really enjoying what you're doing, then go with it, because sometimes I find in these sessions that I get a really good idea right on, and so if I ask you to move on to something else and you're really with the flow and the muse is with you, then that's absolutely fine, and just continue. Okay, so let's start then. So as I say, we're going to start with a bit of character building. Okay, I'm going to share in this view then. So you've got a bit of a sneak preview of the next things. Sorry about that. Okay, so can everybody see? Yeah, the Olympian gods and goddesses. So our first exercise, you're going to choose an Olympian god or goddess, or if you want to go more Percy Jackson, then an offspring. So I quite fancy being Sheila, daughter of Aphrodite, but I'm not going to do the writing because you're doing it today. So I want you to come up with the name of your character. So as I say, it could be one of the Olympian gods or goddesses, or it could be a child of any of them. And write that in your book. And if people did want to put their videos on, you're more than welcome, because it helps me because I can see whether you finished writing or not. Okay, so have we all got a name? So next, is your character mortal or immortal? Okay, see people thinking. All right, now what age do they appear to be? So they could be thousands of years old, but what do they look like? Do they look like they're in the mid-30s, for example? So what age do they seem to be? Okay, and right, we've got now into a bit more detail. So what do they look like? What's their skin colour? What's their hair colour? Is it long or short? Are they tall or short? What's their eye colour? What are they wearing? So what do they look like? Okay, all right, I can see you finished writing. Okay, where do they live? What country? What town or city? What's their house like? Do they live in a flat? Do they live in a big palace? Where do they live? So, and now have they got an attribute? So if like Athena has her owl or Poseidon has a trident, do they have something? And or if you're not sure about this, what's the first thing they would save if their house was burning down? So what's their pet or their thing, their really important object? I can see animals being saved as we talk. Okay, so and have they got what's their companion? So who's their friend or their lover or their sidekick? Who's their main companion, their helper, their friend, the person they'll go to, or the god that they'll go to? Who's their companion? And then now they've got a companion, they who's their antagonist. So this could be an enemy, or it could just be someone they're a bit jealous of, or someone that they don't get on with. So who's the antagonist in this story? Who's their, or not either their nemesis or just someone that they don't get on with? Okay, so now getting into the story, what were they doing yesterday? Right, couple more big picture things. What's their mission? What's their long-term goal? What's their objective that they're trying to achieve? And finally, what's the main obstacle to their goal or their mission? What's the thing that's stopping them? It could be their antagonist or it could be something else. Okay, right, so does anybody want to share? It would be just nice to see a couple of these characters, what they're called. Come off mute and share if anybody's feeling brave enough. Can you all come off mute? I don't need to unmute people, do I? Come on, Dan, you can share.
I got it. Just fumbling a bit because I'm shy. I'm a shy retiring flower, as everybody knows. Okay, so I chose Hades. He's immortal. He's about 35. Looks tall. His skin, because he lives underground, his skin is not typically bronze. He's got imposing blue eyes, long hair, beard, holds a staff by it. So I guess I'm not deviating much from traditional depiction. He lives underground because he's Hades, but it's not a dank underground. It's sort of a bright underground. Hades the underworld has been sort of misrepresented in popular culture. He has a book that he would save from a fire. Persephone, sort of his perceived companion, his real sidekick, or the person he loves most, is their daughter, whose name I don't know yet. Nemesis would be Demeter. Yesterday, Hades was reading his book, which contained stories written by his, he likes to write stories and puts them in the book, which he reads. Hades maintains the world, which is getting full. He needs room, but Zeus has put limits on the cosmos, and Demeter has Zeus's ear, so this is causing trouble for him. That's what I got.
Okay, great. Right, so this is a bit bad because I have to unmute people, so I have to pick on you if I'm going to ask you anything. So Dan, I do need to pick on you anyway, because we're going to move on to the next thing, which is my favorite thing in the whole world. I've only used them for the first time yesterday, which is storytelling dice. How amazing are storytelling dice? But I'm not giving you a great deal of options, so I need 3 people to choose a number between 1 and 3. So Dan, first line, 1 to 3.
2.
This is going to fit nicely with your story because it is death. So that's a bit dark if anybody's wanting to have a nice comedy. So we've got death. Roger, I think you're unmuted. You want to choose from 1 to 3 on line 2?
3.
3. It is a forest. So we've got death and a forest. I can't see Meredith. Rocky, do you want to do one? I'll choose Rocky.
Sure.
As yeah. 1 to 3. 1 to 3. An object.
1.
1. It's a sword. So we've got a sword, we've got death, and we've got a forest. Now, this might be tricky to fit them all into your story with your character. So the challenge is, if you can get all 3, amazing. If you can get 2, that's really good, but try and just at least get 1. So just a reminder, death, a forest, and a sword. So I'm now going to give you 5 minutes to put your character into a situation where there's death and or a forest and or a sword. And I'll leave you for a minute, and I'll tell you when it's a minute to go. You've got 5 minutes. Right, okay, time's up, pens down. So did anybody, hands up, so I can see a number of people on the video, hands up who got all 3 into their story, all 3 things. Yay! Well done. So who am I going to pick? So would anybody who got all 3 like to share, hand up, or do I need to pick on somebody?
Well, I'll go first so that there will be a low benchmark that we can surpass.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Okay, so the mysterious death of County Commissioner Argus Featherstone has complicated the process of a bike path through Provo Canyon. My character is Hermes, and he likes to ride his road bike around. So Argus Featherstone's body was found sprawled across the pathway in the middle of the forest. A sword nearby bore identifying markings that connected it to Hermes' friend, the riverfront developer Robert Enicus.
Okay.
Low benchmark.
No.
Easy to hurdle.
No, it isn't. It's really interesting. Thanks, Roger. Something. So one more person that would like to share? I think. Anybody else? Hand up? Or maybe not. Okay, well, you can share with me afterwards. So send me an email if you wanted to share, or put it in the chat, because we have got quite a few. Oh, okay. Did somebody want to share?
No, I'm just adding that people can use the virtual hand raise function, since you've got your screen shared, Amanda, and you've got that sort of narrow strip, so that would increase participation.
Yeah. Okay. Good shout. Good shout. Use your hand if you would like to.
So Allison Poe has raised a hand.
Okay, Allison.
Is it all right? It's just a setup. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's cool. Tell us what you'd like to share. That would be good.
And I have to admit that my 11-year-old daughter created the character. I just wrote the scene.
Okay.
My fish. Ithra hadn't been down to the forest from Olympus for a week because of all the rain. Now she saw that the pool where she visited her beloved koi fish, Ingor, was empty. She also came up with Ingor. Something glinted from the bottom of the pool. Ithra looked closer, the hem of her green drapery skimming the surface. It was a sword. She recognized the weapon. It belonged to her immortal enemy, Ares.
Yay. Okay. Well done. So thank you very much. Oh, I think, have we got more hands raised? Oh, I can't get everybody up at once. Where have we got? Or maybe not. Did anyone else? Can everybody see? Oh, Marcia, do you want to share yours as well?
I just shared mine in the chat because it's kind of long. So if anybody wants to read it, you can.
Oh, all right. Oh, thank you so much. No, that is good. Let's have a look. I'll have a quick read. Oh, yes. I always like anything with Dionysus and the Maenads is always a good story, I think. So looking forward to reading that one later. Okay, so thanks, everyone. Conscious of the time then. As I say, if you'd like to share anything, I'll bring up my email address again at the end, or yeah, share in the chat. But let's move on to the next exercise. Now, we're going to move on to something using visual cues now. And so I've chosen 3. Let me just minimize that. Right, so now we are going to look at 3 different pictures, and you're going to be able to choose one. So our first one is Botticelli's Venus and Mars, which is in the National Gallery. So we've got Venus and Mars, and then we've got these funny little kind of cherub satyr characters around the place. And I like this one because Venus has got her clothes on and Mars hasn't. So second one is really one of my favourite pictures. I just love the colour of the sky. Again, in the National Gallery in London, Titian's Bacchus and Ariadne. And I still mean to write a story from the point of view of one of those leopard stroke cheetahs. I think that will be quite fun, but I haven't got round to it yet. And so those are a couple of my favourite paintings in the National Gallery. And then this one, which is an interesting painting and quite different, is in the Brighton and Hove Museum, and it's Ethel Colquhoun's Judgment of Paris from 1930. So I want you to choose now one of the pictures. I'll put them all up, and if you've now got fine, well, I'll give you 6 minutes. So what I want you to do is choose one of the characters from the painting, and I want you to write a description of where you are. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it smell like, sound like? What's going on? So you've got 6 minutes to do some description from the point of view of one of the characters, and it could be a human character or an animal character out of one of the paintings.
So Amanda, you're wanting us to leave behind the masterpiece that we've been working on.
I know. So if you're really loving it and you want to continue, then of course you can, because I wouldn't want to stop anybody. But I'd just like you to have a go at this one, which is using a visual cue, if that's all right. But as I say, if you're really loving your masterpiece, then go stay with it. But yeah, if you want to try this one for 6 minutes. So starting now, I'll give you a shout when there's a minute to go. Okay, finished now. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody at once. So how did everybody find that? Did anybody want to comment on how they found that exercise, which was a bit freer compared to the other one? Who would anybody want to comment? Did anybody find it more difficult? Yeah.
I thought I found it easier, actually.
You found it easier? Yeah. So some people, you preferred the visual cue. Does anybody?
I think so.
Yeah. And does anybody want to share who they chose as their viewpoint character? Did anybody choose the cheetahs? I hope somebody did. No, maybe not. What did you choose, Emma?
I chose one of those little satyrs with Ares and Aphrodite, the one who had the helmet over his head.
Right, okay. All right, good. Now, what I would do if we had more time is then I'd ask you to use the same picture, but switch to another viewpoint character. But I'm conscious we've got a couple more to do. So that's quite interesting if you wanted to have a go at that later or use it again. But I want to move on to now, because I'm conscious I haven't really done much film and TV. So we're going to move on to some film and TV images and do the same activity. Back to the PowerPoint then. So the first picture we've got is the Amazons in Wonder Woman 2017. The second image we've got is Jason and the Children of Hydra's Teeth in Jason and the Argonauts. And the third one is Perseus and the Stygian Witches in Clash of the Titans 1981. So I want you to do the same exercise, but now you're choosing something from a movie. So of course there is a choice of viewpoint characters here. I don't know the names of all the Amazons. Obviously in the Amazons you could make one up if you wanted to choose one. You could be one of the witches, you could be one of the skeletons, you could be one of the heroes. So same exercise again. I'm going to give you 6 minutes. So choose a character, what's going on, where you are. Okay, right, I'm going to ask you to wrap up now. All right, so I'm just conscious of the time and I've got a couple more to get through. I think we'll conflate the next exercise. So this is the freest of all of them. This is opening lines or lines from movies. So when I did this originally, then I chose, I wasn't doing it movie themed. So minimal, get that out of the way. So I chose opening lines from the Odyssey, the Aeneid, or Ovid's Metamorphosis, and these were just the translations that I had on my bookshelf. So you could start off and you can write about anything that you want. So you might choose Tell Me Muse of the Man of Many Ways, I Sing of Arms and the Man, or Changes of Shape, New Forms are the theme which my spirit impels me now to recite. And you could say I Sing of Arms and the Woman, or the so if man is constraining you in any way in the first two. But then I thought maybe we'd like to use an opening line. I'll copy all these into the chat so everybody can see them at the same time, actually. But the other alternative is a film and TV line. So I've just chosen not opening lines, but just some catchphrases from films or television. So everything is more beautiful because we're doomed. In a time of ancient gods, only love can truly change the world. Or, and this is for Stacey particularly, but anybody, I couldn't resist, Release the Kraken. So anybody would like to, so you can choose any of them. Actually, do we want to do a bit of a vote for people that I can see? Hands up, who would prefer to do the film and TV? Okay. And hands up who's preferring to do the other ones, the starting of the epic poem. So we've got a bit of a choice of both. I think we've got people choosing both. So does it help if I put them into the chat, or have you got what you're starting with? Right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes from now. I know you've already started, most of you, but I'd just like to finish at 5:25 so that we can then wrap up. Okay, I think most people have now finished writing. So I did do those quite quickly at the end. So I know you've been writing for quite a long time and I've given you different prompts, but how did you feel with the last ones, just having an opening line and being completely free? Were you kind of creative written out by now, or did some of you find that quite helpful? Or did you manage to get something different? I've seen a couple of nods. So I hope that, does anybody want to share anything? Because we haven't shared since kind of the earlier bits, because I just wanted to get through the exercise. Does anybody want to share anything? I hope somebody will. Stacey, what have you done? Come on, share something.
If I can unmute myself, I will. So thank you for the crack in there. I really enjoyed that. And I like the idea. So I'm terrible at this, but I loved it. So I really like the idea of doing this with larger groups of people and students and colleagues. It could be really enlightening for thinking about different viewpoints. So I was trying to think about the Kraken as feeling like a pawn, a misunderstood pawn. And why does everyone keep yelling, release the Kraken? Now that comes from my own laughter, of course, every time I hear that. But
cool. All right, does anyone else have anything to share?
Sean does.
Oh, Sean, yes, sorry, Sean.
Hi, I actually did just what Stacey did. I have a little monologue. Shall I read that?
Yeah, please, if you like.
He shouts, release the Kraken, and I go. Somehow I always know where. The what to do used always to be the same. Destroy the place. I never questioned it, at least for as long as I could remember. I assumed that the city was beyond recovery. All had been tried, warnings ignored. Then Hermes came stealing into my sleep and whispered to me, the destruction of cities was being traded in private deals. So I decided to take some sort of, I don't know, film noir situation in which the Kraken realizes that he completely misunderstood the role he played. And I don't know where I was going to go from there, but.
Oh, good start though, Sean. When you get any more of it written, email me over. I'd be really like to read that one. And then I think someone else did someone else have a hand up? Yeah, Andrea.
Yeah, I worked on In a Time of Ancient Gods, and that kind of reminded me about how the voiceovers would start in a time of ancient gods. And so I talked about someone complaining as the movie started. The booming voice intoned in a time of ancient gods, which set me off immediately. Okay, so it was a man as usual. And who is he calling ancient? I'm no more than 1,000 years, give or take a few hundred. And what is this with a time? Why does he have to go with this eternal thing? 2 p.m. is a perfectly good time. That would have worked out much better. At least he got the gods things partially right. But once again, what happened to the goddesses? So it was just all complaining about that one line.
Oh, I really like that. That's great. It's very different. Anyone else got anything they'd like to share?
I just wanted to say that I was also inspired by this line, and my line of thinking was quite similar, because I thought, what about the goddesses? And so a kind of a short story erupted about Niobe and Leto and their former friendship and how it ended badly, because, you know, these lines were drawn between gods and humans. So this was the same kind of reasoning that led me to believe that there was something about women and goddesses and how they interacted together. That would be a great idea for the story.
Yeah, no, I think it would. That does sound really a good starting point. So
I can't raise my hand because I have host status, but I used the opening of the Odyssey, and I actually tied it back to the first exercise that you were having us do, because I had chosen Poseidon's daughter. So I also did a kind of revisionist take where, you know, you start with the canonical first line, but then rewrite it. So a man of many ways to destroy a world, an arrogant, you know, limited mortal who thought himself the center of the universe, and because this character has received the story of the Odyssey from her mother, who is Poseidon's lover. So she gets the whole different kind of pillow talk complaining version of everything Odysseus has done to interfere with Poseidon.
Okay.
And her antagonist was actually, like, Athena was her frenemy. She couldn't tell if she was a guide of heroes or just messing with her, because Athena doesn't always get along with Poseidon in myths. So.
Oh, that is good. Lots of opportunity there as well. So I'm just
Amanda, I just want to point out to everyone's attention that Alicia also put a choice one in the chat, reworking of the Metamorphoses. So just to draw that to everyone's attention.
Okay.
There's a yada yada yada, which I always favor, so I like that.
Okay, no, well, thanks for everybody for putting that in the chat, and I will copy the chat. And but if anybody's got anything or works a bit more and would like to send me an email, my email address was on the slideshow if you managed to get it down, and I can put it in the chat as well. It's amandapotter@caramanda.co.uk. So thank you everybody for participating. I hope you go and maybe do some of this with your students, as Stacey was saying, or with your colleagues. So I'd be really interested to hear how you get on, and I'll certainly be doing more of it too, because I think it works well. I'd intended originally that I was going to do something as a face-to-face workshop at Brighton Hove Museum, and then actually as an online, it works well, I think. So, you know, let me know how you get on if anybody tries it out. And thanks again to Meredith, Dan and Roger for giving me the opportunity to share this.